Senators, I'm ArnavTolat speaking for the first time today. Judges and PO, please give me a nod or any other signal when you're ready. Senators, I stand in the firmest negation of the resolution to promote foreign investment in India. For one, as Senator Shetty and Senator Ropero stated, India's infrastructure is one that cannot effectively support foreign investment. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, all parts of India's infrastructure are incompetent. It states that only half of the country is paved and less than a quarter of its national highways meet required standards. Furthermore, electricity in India is also incompetent. The CFR states that today the national transmission grid is in dire need of improvement, and distribution companies, largely state-owned, are financially insolvent. Electricity theft has become a common practice, while roughly 1/3 of the country goes without access. Additionally, although India's development is fast now, it won't be in the future, to refute Senator Gupta. According to the Diplomat.com, which cites a research paper from former U.S. Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers and Harvard fellow economist Lance Pritchett, growth in Asia's billion-plus population giants of China and India is more likely to slow down to a developed world pace of 2% a year than maintain current rates. Also, although the U.S. is somewhat dependent on China, its dependence isn't dangerous. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, only roughly a mere 15% of U.S. imports come from China. Furthermore, a larger China is beneficial. According to business.time.com, it's hard to argue that the rise of China taken on whole is anything but good for the global economy. New wealth for China's 1.3 billion people means 1.3 billion more people who can buy stuff from the rest of the world, creating jobs from American research labs to Japanese industrial zones, all the way to Brazilian mines. A global economy no longer solely dependent on the U.S. consumer for growth is potentially more stable and prosperous. Now I'd like to refute some of what other senators stated. To respond to Senator Gupta, Hyundai is a Korean company, and the dynamics of Korea and the United States of America are different. The cheap labor that they mentioned is not the best quality either, and a skilled workforce wouldn't be that cheap. Issues such as child labor plague the workforce. And if we invest, a similar situation that occurred this summer in Brazil, with issues such as child labor and foreign investment that created the World Cup, had caused riots. And this is why I stand in the firmest negation of this topic and urge you to vote against this. Thank you. And I'm now open to questions.
Okay, that speech by Senator Tolat was 2 minutes 32 seconds. Questions? Is there anyone else awake here? Senator Gupta? Oh, do we have questions from online? Senator Gupta, go ahead.
According to the New York Times, India is supposed to surpass the U.S. economy in 2050. How do you respond to this statement?
I respond with the evidence I already provided in my speech, which cites a research paper, but by not only the U.S. Treasury Secretary, the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, but a Harvard fellow economist. So therefore, this is correct evidence.
More
Sir,
questions?
you mentioned Chinese, by going to university in China, have 1 billion people to sell it, right, to a product. But India has even bigger population, 1.2 billion, as Senator Coach said. 300 million people are upper middle class you can sell the products to. So the U.S. businesses still can sell the same, whatever they're trying to sell to China, to India. How do you respond to that?
Yes, businesses can sell what they want to sell to India and China. However, the issues, how will they have a proper workforce? And not only that, but their infrastructure is terrible, and therefore they cannot support these businesses.
Isn't poor infrastructure and more population all the more reason to invest in India because you have quicker gains?
Although you can invest in India's infrastructure, however, with a corrupt government and many issues plaguing India, this would be ineffective.
Senator, one more question. You mentioned infrastructure, right? As a matter of fact, the business like Caterpillar, Deere and Company, U.S. businesses are very eager to go and help in infrastructure development as part of their business plans. So that actually creates an opportunity. Challenge creates an opportunity for businesses. That's very attractive place to be there. How do you respond to that?
Even though businesses are attracted to it, government policies are stopping businesses from investing.
U.S. government can promote the policies and help influence Indian government.
But even no matter how hard the U.S. tries to influence the government, the Indian government and the Indian Congress and other branches of the Indian government have the final say.
Also, Senator, you said that India's economy is going to come to a 2% growth. Don't you think 2% still is good enough in such a large economy? U.S. growth at less than 1%.
But 2% is the average economic growth for the developed world in countries in regions such as Europe and South America. I mean, in regions such as Europe with developed countries, and therefore all the attractiveness in a growing, booming economy that other people, other senators in the process, such as Senator Gupta stated, are not very.
Yeah, but India is growing at 5% or more than 5%. In fact, now 5%. It grew at 6 or 7 or 8% even a few years ago. So it will take probably 15 years to get to a level of 2%. So still at 15 years of good growth.
Well, although we'll have some growth in the short term. However, we're focusing on how this will benefit the United States corporations in the long term.
Okay, thank you.